Howdy, y'all. It's Ryan from not Warefoot, but Art and Music, Even Heart, Texas. I'm here with my friend Wesley Pruitt.
Yes, what's up, my brother?
From the Wesley Pruitt Band.
Uh-huh.
That would be technically the name of the band.
Yeah, Wesley Pruitt Band, yes.
Who's a Texas musician, local artist, but also regional, I guess.
Oh, yeah. We go all over.
We travel all over the place.
We travel all over, yes.
So I haven't done one of these artist spotlights in quite a while, and I've been wanting to get Wes in for a bit, but you're kind of busy.
Kind of.
You kind of play a lot, so we're gonna do a little artist spotlight, and we're gonna talk to Wes. I'm gonna ask him some questions.
I'm not gonna answer any of them.
None of them.
No.
He's gonna.
Sorry.
They're all lies. Just about gigging and your background in music, and maybe do some playing, maybe do some blues licks or some
do that.
stuff.
I'm all about the playing, so that's good.
Let's do that. All right. All right, first question. I wrote these down because sometimes when I don't write things down, I don't remember things.
I gotta play before I speak. Okay.
But yeah, so I ask a question, then you'll play a lick, and then you can answer it. That's how we should do it.
We'll get it figured out.
All right, so first question is, tell us about your music background, and when did you know guitar was the instrument that you really wanted to play?
That's a hard question. I would probably fail on a test. Musical background, all the way back since I can remember, which before toddler days. The house was full of old country, a lot of blues, and on mom's side there was always a little gospel.
Uh-huh.
Or I should say a lot of gospel and a little bit of R&B. And I think that's what molded my ears early on to play the music that I play today. Mm-hmm. It never was what was current. It's always stuff that I grew up with, which was older music,
mm-hmm.
which is the backbone of what we hear today anyway. So
yeah, the roots of it all.
Yeah. So artist-wise, you got BB, you got Waylon, Willie, Mahalia Jackson, Whitney Houston, Celine Dion. There's so many I grew up with, and up till now, I think I've covered a very wide area of all kinds of music that's formed the Wesley Pruitt Band.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Now I know because we both went to Canton High School.
Oh yes.
So we're both Canton guys.
Yes.
I'm a couple years older.
Just a couple.
Just a few, but. So I went through the band program at Canton, which is a great program, and Wesley did too. Now, so you had like school music experience.
Yes. Junior high, I started out on saxophone. I moved to tuba, and then as far as high school, I stayed with tuba, and I was able to perform in a jazz band in high school. Mm-hmm. And as far as pinpointing an area of what really changed Wesley Pruitt to make him go forward to get to 2017, it was under the direction of Rob Toops. And my junior year in jazz band was the toughest of all music. And I'm very appreciative of it because that put me in the right direction.
Yeah. And
then that's really when guitar was my primary instrument, was starting out as a junior in jazz band.
Ah.
Back in 99.
99. All right.
Yes.
So that makes a lot of sense because we were talking about this earlier.
Mm-hmm.
We both had the same high school band director, and my junior year, which was Mr. Toops' second year at Canton,
okay,
was the first year they started the jazz band.
Awesome.
So there hadn't been a jazz band for a long time, and then my junior year, Mr. Toops started it, and I started like, I want to play guitar, and I got into like 13th chords. What is all this crap? I was like, I want to play drums. And so for about a week, I played guitar and jazz band. They're like, let me just go back to drums. And so I did drums senior year. And I learned so much from the same director we're talking about. Yes. I learned a lot about myself as a drummer and was humbled many, many times.
There's so many words we can use, but humble is definitely one of them.
That's
many
the nicest. Yeah, so that's really interesting. That's how a teacher can really influence your the rest of your musical life. Sometimes.
Yes, and he did. He did by far. I can't say enough about Mr. Toops. I mean life in general. I mean he's a very good man. We all know that. Mm-hmm. But we're talking about music, and his guidance is the number one sole direction of where I am today.
Yeah,
it's
awesome.
Much appreciated.
Well, I kind of wanted to. I sort of knew that. I wanted to kind of go into that because, you meet a lot of guys and a lot of amazing, fantastic guitar players who are kind of self-taught, and they sit in their room with a record player and they learn a million songs. Mm-hmm. And that is a brilliant way to train your ear, But sometimes having those different backgrounds, like playing other instruments.
Yes.
And then choosing the instrument you're really passionate about, I think is really interesting.
Totally agree.
For sure. So, awesome. Well, good deal. So it was junior grade levels when you decided guitar is the thing.
Yeah. That was it. I was in it. There was no turning back from it. There was a fire lit under me, and I mean, playing in jazz band really, like you said, 13 chords. What you got? 11ths, 9ths, 7ths. Yeah. 6/9 minors, majors. You had to learn all that to play in jazz band.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad I did. But it was real rough at the beginning.
Yes.
There's still sheet music that they have that I wrote notes of chords so I could hit them during the concerts.
Yeah. See, I took the easy out. I said, I just gonna go back to drum set. No problem. Of course, not knowing that Mr. Toops was an insanely great drum set guy. Yes. And just like, oh man. So it was a brutal lesson for me.
We can talk about him on how great on everything he does, he touches.
Yeah. I'm going to go on to question number 2. Now, we talked a little bit earlier. You play all kinds of music, but
yes,
kind of sometimes for marketing purposes, we got to kind of sometimes pick a genre, and you kind of fall into the blues. Sometimes people are like, oh, Wes, he's a blues guy. That's what people will say sometimes, even though you play all kinds of things. Mm-hmm. But and you do play the blues very well, I just want to say.
Thanks, sir.
But what is it about the blues, that specific genre, that really kind of really captures your passion and really gets you excited about that specific?
I think, like, from going back when I mentioned, Dad's choices of music, which is, there's country and blues, and mm-hmm. But it's the guitar in it, the organs, the singing, the raw singing. I guess that was the overall greatest pitch that captivated me in the blues. Mm-hmm. And I've always had I guess they call it an old soul. And like I said, I like it all, I play it all, but the blues is just that, it has a hold. That's the way to say that. It has a hold of me, and it makes me feel the best when I play it. Because you can really dig down, and it's here. You feel it. It makes you feel good. It's not about sad or happy of the lyrics or the music. It's how you feel on stage when you're playing. Mm-hmm. And that's probably the number one. It is the number one type of music that I really like. So I guess that's why we're described more as a blues band and a blues musician.
There's a spark there.
It's a little bit more of a, yeah.
When you play it. And I have no problem. I have some friends who are blues guys, and one in Denver. He's from New York, but he lives in Denver, and he owns a music store, and he's definitely a blues guy. Like, he goes to blues jams and stuff, and he plays really well. I've watched him play some things, and a really funny thing is I have another friend who's more of a rock guy, like rock 80s hair, like shred is awesome.
Yeah.
And he did some videos the other day about blues licks, mm-hmm. and this guy in Denver was like, yeah, that's pretty good blues for a rock guy. Like, that's how a rock guy would play the blues. and the rock guy was like, what?
I love it.
There's just something there, but and but I definitely, I'll tell people like, well, I'm a rock guy, Mm-hmm. I maybe know a few blues licks, but maybe I don't play them with the right conviction.
They're deep in you. They're in there. They're definitely in there.
Well, you grew up in Texas. There's a certain, like, no matter what you listen to, there's certain music that I kind of grew up listening to a lot of the same music because it was what my parents listened to. Yeah. I was on the radio at the time. And then eventually, I found like hard rock stuff was where my kind of spark is. But I enjoy it all too, thanks to Mr. Toops.
Yes.
The band director who made me play everything. So like you learn to appreciate everything. So. All right. Well, here's a fun question. I thought for someone who's is on their early in their journey of playing guitar, learning to play, and that they want to get into playing the blues. For someone who's just learning it, what song do you think they should start with? What would be a good starter song for someone learning to play the blues, maybe for the first time? And then maybe at the far end of it, what would you consider the most challenging blues song to play? So, what's a good easy starter song? If I want to learn to play the blues, where should I start?
And then we want to
wind up with like, yeah, if you're really good, you can play this song.
That's a hard question to answer, and the reason why is it's especially when you're dealing with somebody younger. Mm-hmm. A lot of them want to do with what's cool, which is stuff when you kind of do things like lead work, scales. But from me teaching lessons over the years, and as far as something to begin with, rhythm that's by far the most important thing. Mm-hmm. And there's a song. There's a beginning level of this song that I teach that also has an advanced level to it. It's one that's called Hideaway, and it shows you the rhythm of as far as Texas blues or whatever you want to call it. You have this stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I would suggest learning the rhythms of blues, whether it's with chords, and you got the shuffle. Learn the rhythm part first. Yeah. And it can be at a beginner level and it'll get to an advanced level. But I guess I'm trying to say learn the rhythm part of blues and then go into the lead part.
Don't bite off more than you can chew at the beginning.
That's the best way to put it.
That's a good way to.
Yeah. No rules really, but definitely try to do the rhythm part of it.
All right. Cool. And then maybe for yourself, like having learned a lot of songs, written songs, but also having learned a lot of other people's songs, what was maybe the most challenging song for you personally to ever learn? That you really had to like knuckle down and really dig in.
I'm gonna say this is a Stevie Ray Vaughan song, mm-hmm. And it was challenging because it's a very hard song. It's a very hard song to play when I tried to learn it at a beginner level. But it was an emotional challenge also because you mentioned earlier about how guitar players, musicians will sometimes hide in a room and learn stuff for hours. Well, mm-hmm. This was one of the songs that took me a long time to get a grip on. And one day, probably, I'm going to say back in about 98, 99, my aunt, who was still alive then, she heard me in there trying to pick up this song. And she let me go for 2 or 3 hours. And when I stopped, she said, "Little man, do me a favor. I'm not going to be here much longer, but I want you to learn that song. Don't give up on it." Wow. And that was why I didn't give up on Lenny. Lenny is one of the most challenging songs I ever learned. And it's just, you got those kind of chords. And I'll say that's the most challenging one I had to learn.
Wow. Lenny. Okay, cool.
It's a great song. I got to play it at my dad's funeral because he loved it too. Yeah. So we still play it today for that reason. It has so many ties with it. Mm. So,
I love Stevie Ray Vaughan, and that's for me, my background being in the sort of hard rock thing, the only blues I would really listen to, and Stevie's so, he's a blues guy, but he's so good. He's so, there's almost
raw.
More to it than that. Yeah.
He's so raw and so much soul.
Yeah.
He had so much in that little bitty body. And once you tuned it in, it's like a radio station. FM for the people that don't listen to radio like we did back then. Now it's satellite radio, but
yeah.
You dialed him in, and he just flowed with energy and soul. And he's actually the guy that gets the most credit. As far as a person I looked up to that I never get to meet, I would say he's my number one idol.
Wow.
Stevie Ray Vaughan. You know, he lit a massive fire under my behind, and then here I am.
I think he did that for a lot of people.
A lot of people. A lot of people.
I think one of my favorites of his was, he did the Hendrix tune, Little Wing. So like his version of Little Wing is like,
it's amazing.
It's my all-time favorite version of Little Wing. Like nothing. I mean, Jimmy's awesome too, but
there is a Hendrix version like that. If I can find it, I'll bring it up. It took me years to run across it.
Really?
Yes. There is a Hendrix version the way he did it. Because I thought Stevie just changed it up his way.
Oh.
But there's an extended version that Jimmy does to where it matches.
Really?
Yes.
I did not know that.
I'll try to find it for you. Yes.
Awesome.
It blew me away when I heard it.
Well, I can imagine. Like I have not even attempted to ever learn any Stevie songs. I probably should. It would probably stretch me.
The next video we do, we're gonna jam one together. Maybe Little Wing.
Awesome.
Hey.
I better start practicing. All right. Awesome, man. All right, so now when it comes to next question, original music. So when you're writing original music, do you have a certain process you kind of go through when you want to write something, or is it inspiration, or when it comes to writing original tunes? What's your process?
With me, I've never written anything that I haven't lived through. So when I write, it's always something relatable through a personal part about life, or it's always personal, but it could be me, it could be a best friend, but it's always something I've lived through. And as far as the process of writing, I think there's no rule of thumb for me, because sometimes I'll have lyrics that just pour out, and then I'll read the lyrics, and then I'll see what I feel when I read them, and then I'll think of a melody. Or sometimes, which is actually more times than the lyrics, I'll have these melodies just pouring out, and I'll record them. Cell phones come in handy. I can record the melody that I have, and then go back and put lyrics with them. So I do both, And I got a couple people that I'm able to write with. Chris Newsom is actually the guy that wrote some songs off our last album with me, co-wrote. Poor Man Blues and Thief in the Night, he co-wrote with on. And having that person that can align, get on the same page, that's important with writing. So having a partner to write with, that's been important too.
That's very good. I've been writing some things, and I'll come to a point where okay, I've got it 70%, and I'm like, and then I think about, I have friends who play similarly to me, have similar taste as me, but they're not me, so it's not the same. And so I always think maybe I should bounce it off Steve over here and see what would you do here. But then I also feel like I should do it all myself.
It goes both ways.
So sometimes it happens.
Is that Steve?
No.
He's got lyrics for you,
That's
man.
Steve. Steve's got the riffs, man, because he'll come up with stuff that's different than what I would. I'm like, I like that.
Yeah, and that's been the key.
So sometimes having a partner to bounce that off of is helpful.
Well, the song that made it to number 39 on the charts, 39 or 41, I forget which number, which was Poor Man Blues, our very first single. Chris Newsom co-wrote that song with me, and to me that says a lot, having that other person or a couple of people that can help finish out that 30%.
Yeah.
You get a radio hit off of it, a good radio single.
I need to do that. Awesome. Cool. All right. We talked about this earlier. Wesley, you travel and you play and you do gigs, and this is pretty much your livelihood.
This is it.
This is what you do.
Yes.
My next question is: do you have some practical tips for someone who wants to be a gigging musician? Booking gigs, finances, venues, people relationships. Some practical, real world tips for someone who wants to do kind of maybe what you do when it comes to booking gigs and that kind of thing.
Tips and advice?
Yes. That's assuming they could playing is not like they can play. What's the
well, yes.
world?
I mean, you need to know. Somebody's had to. You need to know if you can play good or not. And by doing that, I'm assuming they played a few gigs, private parties outside of family, because they're going to be so biased.
Yes, they are.
But let's start out with advice. There's actually a young guy that's wanting to meet, and he's thinking about quitting his day job, which I'm totally against. If you can keep them balanced, seriously, if you can keep a job balanced with playing professionally, do it. And don't leave that day job until you're able to make a living playing music. And it's as much as I love it, it's a very hard thing to do. Especially I'm not at a level to where I can say, well, okay, I got 20 shows the rest of this year, and that's going to pay for my whole years of living.
Yeah.
I'm not there. I make a good living doing it. So as far as the business sense of it, if you have a job, don't quit the day job before you're actually playing enough gigs to make a living. As far as tips along the way, and it's still advice, you're working for somebody when you're playing at a venue. So you need to respect the management. You need to respect your crowd at all times, which means sound check on time, do the amount of material that you need to know. Is if you're playing a 3-hour gig, well, don't show up with 2 hours of music. Have 4 hours of music. Have plenty of music to play. And let me go a little further.
Yeah.
I read a book a long time ago. It's by Livingston Taylor, which is the brother of James Taylor, and it's called Stage Performance. A mutual friend of ours, Jimmy Bailey, recommended me getting that book.
Yeah.
And I was offended at first because stage performance is something that I've worked on all my life to really sell a show. And I was like, why are you giving me a book about stage performance? He said, Wesley, just read it. Long story short, there's a section where Livingston Taylor shows up to a venue. And obviously, when you do sound checks, you're early. You want to do sound check before the crowd's there. He goes into the restroom, and the restrooms are awful, nasty.
Yeah.
He politely asks the staff for a mop and a broom. And after begging him to do that, he went in and cleaned the restrooms. The point is, people come to hear you play. They don't have to come hear you play.
No. So
as an artist, if you're going to make this your living, you do over and beyond the best for the people that are coming to see you play. So restrooms need to be clean, and go from there with it. You have to give the audience your best. Those are an outline of good tips and advice. Oh, yeah. And then you'll have a 17-year career like myself, and hopefully I'm playing when I'm 90 and still able to make a living.
Yeah. Good deal. So show up when you're going to show up.
Yes.
Treat the sound guy and everybody with respect. And
yes.
Just be professional, right?
Yes, be professional.
Yeah.
Be late like I was this morning, but it works.
Nobody needs to know.
It works, huh?
That's right. I've heard a few horror stories. We do know some of the same local guys around here, like Jimmy. Jimmy's actually the first person I had come in and do exactly what we're doing.
Love that guy.
With Jimmy Bailey, and Jimmy and Paul came in, and I did the same thing and asked Jimmy his experience and stuff. So it was great. But we've talked behind the scenes, like he knows a guy that showed up to a gig drunk.
Mm-hmm. I already know what you're talking about. I'm sure.
Couldn't perform, and then so that promoter's not going to call him back, or.
And your name, once your name is out there like that, like I said, don't quit your day job.
Doesn't matter how much talent
it does not matter.
You have.
It does not matter.
If you can't show up and do the job.
Yes.
That's not good.
And your crowd is not they pay $10, $12, $15 to come see you play. They're not going to be happy seeing a drunk side of a person that's just up there lollygagging around, and you got to be professional. Got to be professional.
Be professional. That solves a lot of the problems. If you just you wouldn't show up to your real job like that.
Because you wouldn't show up the next day. You wouldn't have
you'd
one.
Be gone.
That's the world for you.
All right. Yeah, cool. Great tips, man. Now, we kind of sort of covered this earlier, but it was what are your top 3 musical influences? I guess we can say Stevie is in one of those top 3 spots, but...
I'm going to go ahead and say this. If you would have asked me this when I first started playing guitar, which was at 15, I would have said Stevie Ray Vaughan and nobody else. Yeah, I might have said Willie Nelson or Waylon Jennings. But there is no way possible, and I don't like limiting myself to anything.
Yeah.
There's no way possible to say just 3. But I will say Stevie Ray Vaughan, and he's dead and gone.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give you some dead ones. I'm going to give you ones that are alive, if that's okay.
That's great.
Stevie Ray Vaughan, B.B. King, and we're going to say Waylon. That was my dad's favorite. And he ended up being my favorite when it comes to country music of just having that thumping bass. And there's more, but I'm going to say those three. And as far as the ones that are still alive, Aretha Franklin. This is rough.
The internet loves
this
lists.
Is rough.
That's why we do it.
Buddy Guy, who's my favorite living legend. Everything about his shows, since I've finally got to hear him, and that wasn't that long ago. That was probably about right around the time I learned about SRV. I learned about Buddy Guy. So he's overall favorite living legend. And you still got Willie Nelson going.
Oh yeah.
And if you're a musician, you'll know how great he is on playing trigger guitar. I had to learn to like his vocals, because at first I didn't like them, but then I learned more about my vocals, and I learned to like Willie Nelson's. Yeah. He's a great singer, great control, great vibrato, and I love the way his inside of the band, it's like a liquid feel. You can shake a cup and you can watch the waves, and somehow, I mean, you're a musician, you got a tempo thing going, and you think he's going to be late, and he may be late off of a metronome, but somehow it's liquid. And they're always just right on point.
It feels good.
I love watching the shows. So I'll limit that to 3. There's way more than that, though. There's way more than that, but I'll limit that to 3. Calvin Sheffield, I got to bring him up. And I always say Heather Little is one of my probably top 10 out of all the vocalists. She is really in my top 10 of female vocalists. Google that name and you'll find out everything you need to find out about Heather Little. But Calvin Sheffield, we've been through it all.
Calvin's your bass player.
He still is my bass player. We're not full time anymore, but he's there to play shows with me, and we've grown together. So we used to be bulldogs, slobbering at the mouth, mad at each other in the early days, wanting to just cut each other up with our claws. To where now, if I was as good as a pitcher as Nolan Ryan, because I throw curveballs at musicians because I'm feeling it. Yeah. I'm gonna throw a curveball. If you're on the same page, which if you're a great musician, you will be. He catches all my curveballs, and our shows have we've grown as brothers together, and learning, because he's the guy that spent hours also. I mean, Victor Wooten and then O'Teal, these are bass guys. He studied them. Jamerson, the way I studied guitar players, he studied bass players. And all of what he's practiced, all of what I've practiced over the years, it's really shown to where we fit.
It works.
And he's actually one of my all-time favorite bass players in the world. Wow. And it's just because we've grown together, and I respect him that much of what he's also done that's made me a better player. So awesome. I gotta add those two at the end too.
Yeah, that's fine. You can.
Sorry, I'm talking a lot.
You can add on addendums.
Yes.
Cool. All right. This should be a fun one.
Oh, man.
Maybe. Number 7. Your favorite gig you've ever played.
Favorite gig I've ever played. That's a lucky number. If I could tell you of all the thoughts that just ran across my mind in the last 5 seconds of favorite gig, it's because there's been naked women, but we won't talk about that gig. Shh. This is internet. Right. This is the toughest question yet.
Well, I thought about asking what's the worst gig you've ever had, but I thought it would be better to go.
It's actually easier to answer the worst one. I'm not going to be cheesy and say all the great ones are the best ones, but I can't say just one. I'm not able to pinpoint just one.
Give us a couple memorable ones.
State Fair of Texas. Every time we played there.
Oh yeah.
It's been a blessing to get that call back. And we got fans everywhere. You know what? I don't want to leave out Moore Store. That's our hometown venue. But the very first tour I went on with my band, I've toured with so many other acts, was back in I think 2013, 12 or 13. That's when we were promoting our Line 'Em Up album. And the very first show we had was in Montrose, Colorado. It was called Turn of the Century Saloon. We've never met anybody up there that was at that venue. We met a lot of good-looking women that wasn't from Colorado. They were from Texas, actually.
Of course.
And, yes. And without, Dave Bowman, he had a radio. I think he still does radio stuff. He's a DJ. He promoted us coming up there, and there was an opening band who they were killer. They had their fans there, and from the first song to the last song, we had strangers up front just digging the heck out of it.
Really?
And you talk about turning your head, and you're like, oh my gosh, is this possible?
Wow.
That really ranks up high to have strangers that have never seen us live. They've heard our music from Ben promoting, and they already had favorite songs off the CD.
Oh,
but
wow.
when we got there, and to have them rocking out to songs that I've written that they didn't know the artist and stuff like that, it was great.
That's crazy.
It was great. That ranks up high for sure.
Yeah, and that was in Montrose,
Colorado. That was a super fun gig.
Cool.
Yes.
All right, how about worst gig? I don't know. I didn't know what to ask that because I didn't know.
No, I'm okay with it.
Like, you don't want to talk bad about venues or anything, but maybe it wasn't at a venue.
I'm going to say this, and I could go out on a limb, but I'm going to say it because it goes with the interview. There hasn't been necessarily a venue that I've absolutely hated because we've always, whether it's me or the whole band, there's going to be that one person that I'm going to reach, that I will talk to on break. They're going to say something good about the show. That's always happened. We've always had good turnouts. We've had some shows that was just, whatever. But the worst show that I'm going to say, which we actually got a standing ovation from the crowd, but I personally felt bad because at the time I had musicians that wasn't professional. And they weren't professional. I'm just gonna say it that way.
Right.
I had fill-in musicians, and they wasn't sober on stage, and they were up and down on tempos, and didn't even realize what they were doing. And I felt, even though they clapped for us and stood up, I felt that I robbed the audience of the best show that we can give them. So even though they liked it, I still think we could have done better. And to me, that's the worst show I've ever done.
Oh wow, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I was kind of thinking along the lines of being like, I had the flu and I had to play a gig and I felt like I was going to die. And
no, I don't like, there's a respect level no matter what, if, we're all different. We all have different views on life, but I am a musician. They come to watch us play, and I want to give them the best I can give them every show. And I've played with the flu. Yeah. 104 temperature. Did not know that.
Yes.
I played with strep throat a million times to where it's bleeding after the show, and I played with gout, which was, I don't know how I did it, but it's a show. I don't like canceling shows for any reason, by the way. If I can keep from canceling a show, and I've only had to cancel one, that's because a state trooper would not let us go down I-20 to Big Springs. The roads were closed, so we couldn't get there. Oh, man. The roads were icy. I think that was 2 or 3 years ago when we had that ice storm around December.
I remember that.
But the crowd, the audience, the fans, got to respect them. So that's how that works.
Awesome. Yeah. We'll talk off camera about a few shows.
Yeah, we can. We definitely can. I love to share them with you.
All right, so number 8. Actually, I have 2 number 8s. I guess I didn't number these correctly.
Eights are crazy.
8 is tell us a little bit about your gear, like your main guitar and your pedals and amp setup. Like, what do you play live typically?
Amp wise, I play on a Hot Rod DeVille. It's 410. I also play. This is a Tube Screamer TS9, and then I try to use I like a very, very clean tone. Back behind me, it's Jet City, right? That's what I'm playing through now.
Today is a Jet City.
Yeah, and, which works good. It's got pop, it's got sustain. But like I said, the TS9 pedal, and then I use a 410 DeVille with a little bit of a...
I'm going to take a picture.
Please do. Vocal harmonizers on there too. I use a Polytune tuner and a little bit of boost from the amp. Which all it does is just it adds a little bit of gain and then more boost and sustain. And at times I like to have a wah-wah pedal and sometimes a chorus, but everything is mainly around a clean channel and just a few effects, really. Yeah. And I love the Tube Screamer though. That baby is And it's got that. And she does a lot for me.
Yeah. I had a Hot Rod DeVille 410
Yes.
in here for a while.
Yes.
Then I got a used thing. I was like, that thing was freaking loud.
Yeah. And you got to be able to crank it. It's heavy too.
Like, yeah.
It's heavy.
I was like, oh, this is a killer amp. I sold it pretty fast.
I've thought about trying to find something close enough to it to where I still can get that beef tone, and I just need, I may end up getting another amp, but I'm not going to really get rid of that one.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I have this is American Fender.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's USA 90, I think it's a 95, I forget. This is a new neck, EMG pickups. And I just got this, yes. Not many blues guys will play MG pickups. I've been stuck on them since high school. And
I get so much crap for loving EMG.
Keep playing with them. I love EMG.
Yeah, they're great, man. Yeah. And they're good people.
Yeah.
They're really nice people.
Yeah, I like them.
They
scream. They scream really, really well. This is my number one. This is my wife. So... her name is Bonnie Ray.
It looks like you got some locking tuners on there. I'm eyeballing from here.
Yes, not the Florida Rose kind, just the type that goes on the neck. When I did switch necks out because I wore out the frets on my other one, I definitely went back with the same lock-in tuners, and they do help a lot.
Yeah,
they do help a lot.
We just had a question on our little Ask RNA that Angela and I do about locking tuners and what I recommend and stuff. I'm like. I mean, I've got a couple of guitars with them. Yeah. But I've never come back and put an aftermarket set on another guitar. So. Right.
I love them. She's been good. She's done some good things.
How long have you owned this guitar?
I'm going to say about 12 years, 10, 12 years. Right. I'm dating back at 17 now. I still think it's 16 sometimes.
Yeah, me too.
So 17, I think I bought this back... 2005 is somewhere around 2005, so about 12 years.
Cool. Do you still have your first guitar?
Yes, I do.
What was it?
It's a white Sensonics. It's a white Sensonics, 3/4 size guitar. We used to have a place here in Canton located off of 19, and they moved to 64, but it was Real Deal Outlet.
Oh, I remember that.
And I actually got that guitar when I was 7 and broke 2 strings, and my starting of playing guitar didn't last long. But when my dad had it refurbished, it was a store at Guitars Etc., Jim Daly. He had it refurbished when I was 15. In December of 1997, I was re-gifted a refurbished guitar, and there was no turning around since. Oh, wow. And I still have it.
Nice.
I still have that guitar.
I don't have my first one. I had my first one that was pretty much just a toy. Yeah. It's in the other room. It's just this little acoustic.
I broke that one a long time ago.
You couldn't even play that thing.
Yeah.
My first real one, I was stupid and traded it at Guitar Center when I was like 17 or something. Oh. It was a Takamine electric.
I'm heartbroken.
And Takamine, come to find out later on, they only made electric guitars for like 2 or 3 years, and they went back to just making acoustics. I'm like, I didn't know. But I do have my first guitar that I bought with my own money, which is my Gibson Explorer. First job, bagging groceries at the Circle B grocery store down here.
Yes,
when I was 16,
remember Circle B.
Before, I don't know how many hours I worked to save up the money and bought it used. So I still have it. And it's like, it's the precious.
That one ain't getting traded at Guitar Center.
Yeah, that one didn't go nowhere. So, yeah. That's cool how you always remember your first guitar.
Yeah. I'm glad I still have it.
Yeah. I have a problem letting go of guitars now because I regret the one that I let go. But I've sold a few in the last year or two that I'm like, I haven't regretted. But, you play a guitar long enough, you either bond with it or you don't.
And I had a friend tell me when I was younger, right around my sophomore year in college, and his advice was, if it doesn't cost you money to keep, don't sell it. And I needed money for school, I needed the gas money, and I needed to be able to eat going back and forth to college, and I was going to sell this was my guitar that I use in jazz band.
Oh yeah.
It's a Valley Art Samick, and I was going to sell it. I needed money. I had a backup guitar to play. Yeah. And I'm glad he told me that if it doesn't cost you money, don't sell it. And I didn't sell it. Yeah. Still got it.
Cool, man. All right. So the final question I have on the list, I don't even know how long we've been going now, so
I hope you guys like this. I'm enjoying it, hanging out with my buddy Ryan up here in RNA Music. So this is fun.
I always get worried about. I'll shoot videos and they're going like 45 minutes. I'm like, I think it's just too long. And just like, shut up. It's fine. Because all the people watching are like, oh man, it should have been longer. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
So we do have people who watch this. So they'll watch a 40-minute video talking about guitars.
We'll see what happens.
From all over the world, which is cool. My last question really though is, I say it's last. We'll find out. So with the internet and changes in the music industry, you know how things have changed a lot in the last 2 decades probably.
They keep changing. So.
Do you think it's harder or easier now for an independent musicians to make a living?
It's almost like this interview was meant to be, because all of this I've just recently, within the last maybe 8 or 9 months, I'll say maybe a year, I've been tossing in between the indie thing and then trying to be signed with a record label. And when I first started doing this as an indie artist, you still had, you had CD players in cars. You still had, some people still had tape players.
Yes.
And you had the whole Napster piracy thing going on. So at that time, and for about 3 or 4 years afterwards, I think it was easier as an indie artist to make it, because there's a formula. It's my formula, what I've used, and I've read stuff, and I got friends that have done this as long as I have, and they make it as an indie artist. And it's, you play killer shows, you stay rehearsed, you sell your albums, you sell your merch, because that's what the record companies would do, and you set up an account to where you're able to use all of that to get from show to show. Not that you're not making money at shows, but they're like today, I use money out of my merch account to be able to travel 16 hours away, then route out, travel another 8 hours away. It's, it helps with the gas, because sometimes the shows don't pay as much. So when you're selling CDs, when you're selling T-shirts as an indie artist, and whether you have an agent or not, booking your shows, for a long time that was so much more easier. Now, and I'm not offended by it, because I still believe everybody is able to get your music if they can, and because I've given away hundreds of CDs. And
sure.
It's not that it's, you can't keep it about the money neither.
Yeah.
But it's so easy to get music without having to go to a show to buy that CD or buy it off their webpage. And it's almost, I'm going to say it is harder now because of that. If at first you're doing it as a formula by yourself and you're getting your music out there, now people they have access to it a million ways. And the merch part of the account is not as strong as it should be, because they got access to your music.
So you think there's been a shift?
There's been a shift.
Like,
yeah.
At what point?
My opinion.
In the last year, 2 years, 5 years?
I'm gonna say a few years. I'm gonna say it's been a major shift in the last 4 or 5 years, I think. Now I know it hurts the record companies too, though, because they're not selling as many albums.
Right.
Which means the artists, we're in the middle. So we're the ones that's suffering the most. If it, on a business sense of it.
Right.
Getting your music out there has always been the number one thing to do, though. So on that side of it, it's better. But I think as far as surviving as an indie artist, these, the companies, they have millions of dollars set up to push artists.
Yeah.
We're trying to make it to where we can stay focused and have money to always push to the shows that don't pay as much to get us there.
Yeah.
I think it's harder on us now. I say the last 3 or 4 years is when I noticed a bigger change.
So would you say maybe like getting the music out to the public is probably easier than ever, but maybe monetizing it is more difficult than ever?
Yeah, I think so. Look at what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of this. I'm a huge fan of it because there's that person that's seen this on Facebook or YouTube, and like I said, it's out there. Social media, it's out there. The more people see it, the more people share it, it's better for the artist.
Yeah.
However, on the other side, the business side of it, it may or may not, do something. It may or may not benefit.
Yeah.
But I don't let that bother me. I'm still gonna play.
The hope is someone's gonna come across it and see it and go, cool, let me check this person out. And then they really love you, and then because they love you, or they like you, and they're like, I really like this guy, I'm gonna buy his record.
Yeah.
I have a few bands that I follow, pretty passionately that, they put out a few records that I was like, I'm not really digging this new record, fellas, but I'm going to buy it because I like you.
Yes.
Because I like you.
I know that happens.
And I think, getting super fans, I guess, is the goal. So, well, that's really interesting because what I do in the music industry is really a completely different thing than what you do in the industry. We're both in the music industry, but just in different avenues. And so I'm really interested in what it's like for being an independent artist.
Well, in which I could be looking at it wrong, but the reason why I said that is why I said this might have been meant to be, because I've made a decision to where however I can get my music, because I want to make another album, and that's really expensive. That's when I was saying we have to sell CDs to make another album,
right? And
it's so expensive to do, and I made a decision to really just try to put my stuff out to the record companies and see what happens. There was a reason why I didn't do it to begin with,
right?
But now, to me, I see a glass ceiling that I can't get past.
Yeah.
And I hate to say the word can't. When I teach my students, I don't let them say can't for nothing. It's a bad word. It's a very bad word. But honestly, I don't see myself going through the glass ceiling on my own as an indie artist. So I'm trying to get out there to the record companies now.
I've heard people say that there's a time and a place for a record label, but there's so much you can do on your own. There's a lot you can do on your own, and then you take it to that point where you've already done all the work, and it's probably going to be an easy yes for the labels when they see, oh, you've already done this and you've sold this many albums on your own and booked this many shows, and they're like, you're not at risk,
right?
So much probably.
Right.
So, but there's
a
point for that. So, well, we want to keep us informed. We'll share that when it comes up. So, well, that's all the questions I have for now. So let's do this. We'll kind of wrap up the question section.
Yeah.
And then we'll do a little bit of playing. Probably what I'm going to do is we're going to come shove some playing all in the middle of all these questions.
Okay. I'm game with however these work.
Yeah. But if people are wanting to find you online, where can they find you? Like website, Facebook, all that stuff.
Website is WesleyPruittBandMusic.com. It's a domain name that actually goes to our Reverb page. Facebook, my personal page is Wesley Pruitt Jr. We also have a fan page, which is Wesley Pruitt Band. Twitter, Wesley Pruitt. We have videos on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify for the most recent album that we have. You can Google Wesley Pruitt and probably find
and
a place.
I'll put a lot of links in the description of this video below. You'll find links on YouTube, anyways. You'll find the links to all this.
Earl Campbell links you're talking about.
Hot dog links.
It's almost lunchtime, ain't it?
No, links to all your info. If this is on YouTube, you'll find it below. If this is on Facebook, you may not see that. You'll just have to find it. But
awesome.
Maybe I'll stream them across with the magic of editing. Put them across the screen there.
I've seen your work. You do good at whatever you do. Seriously.
Well, I'm trying. I'm always learning new things. So
if we're not learning, we're not doing it right.
Yeah. Now, I know some guys who do it really, really well, and I'm like, I'm trying to do it like that guy. So, awesome. Well, thanks for being here. I appreciate it, man.
Thanks for having me.
Good.
It's been a pleasure
to talk to you. Yeah. Talk guitars. We could talk guitars and music
anytime,
all day.
Yes.
So. All right.
Yes.
Well, thanks, man. And
thank
you guys stay tuned for some music. You've probably already seen some. Here's a little bit more. Keep the music alive. Don't forget it. That's what Angela says.
All right. I like that.
All right.
Like a little 12-bar blues progression, and it fits with some of the beginning things that we talked about, which is the rhythm part of this. You have E string, A string, second fret. You want to hit 2 strings. There's your B note. Same thing here, and that's slight palm mute across the bridge. So you have an open side, which is you want to slightly constrict the tone to where you palm mute, or this part of your hand, and it sounds like this. Which rock and blues guys and everybody does that. So That'll fit some of the beginning licks of rhythm. And I can also advise to say, you want to learn your chords, whatever if it's just a simple major or a minor or seventh tones, which E major, E7, E7, A major, A minor, A9. There's a lot of chords you want to learn, and you can learn those as a beginning student. But I really put emphasis on learning the rhythm part, to where the song always has that backbeat. You always have it, whether you're doing this or learn the rhythm. That's the advice to a beginning student. And then you can come back and really make it stand out and hit those licks. So that was advice I would give for a beginning student.
Sweet. Yeah.
We talked about a song. We mentioned something about Lenny, and we also mentioned something that I've taught to that has a beginning part of a song, and also it goes to an advance, and it's called Hideaway. And it starts out, I would show the rhythm part of this, which is not the easiest thing in the world to do. It's almost like a train. I always say there's like a caboose that's going on. You want to even though it's a smooth motion, but that's your shuffle. If you can think of that, you're almost kind of laid back this beat, but then you push the next one. That's some of the blues stuff. Texas blues shuffle. A little bit more advanced. Now, inside the song Hideaway, when you do get to where you're learning some of your lead patterns, E string here, that's your first string, B string, second string. Your first lick is, if it's fast, if it's slow. So as you see, there's a, and when you fret here, you're sliding, which is fast, slow. That's your first lick to Hideaway. So it goes like this. Full tempo. Slow tempo. One more lick I'll show you is you finish that first pattern. You want to do the same thing. You want to pull off. Fret here. Here's a pull off. So you have full tempo. So first two licks together is this. So all the way from beginning into advance, you have a song that you can learn. And there's rhythm in between, and there's also lead work in between that cover other areas of guitar playing. So Hideaway as such. Clapton way. Stevie. That's some of your Texas blues. Like I said, that's a song that I always would teach my beginners up to the advance.